Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten to see a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongoose.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Well, I feel like I just talked to you guys earlier today about 5 minutes ago, and then, Damon Wilson decided to commit, and then Georgia, I guess, flipped a former NC State commit, and then Travis Hunter just ran circles around all of us. Hey, everybody, I'm Wes Blankenship. This is the Georgia Show. Jake Rowe is pissed. Jake Roos had a swell day, and Palmer Toms did too. Yeah, get that trop. Guys, I want to start the show by congratulating the 2023 signing day champion, Alabama Crimson Tide. Good job. Number one, y'all did it. You finally did it. But in all seriousness, what a day. Georgia just kind of stacking it up. Ho-hum day at the office. Number 2 signing class in the on-3 consensus.
Yeah, good class, man. And not mad. I'm definitely not pissed about the whole Travis Hunter thing. It's just, I don't know, I'm kind of cringing. There's this guy on TikTok that I see from time to time, and he's a guy with a big old bushy mustache, and he sees awkward stuff, and he just
not Johnny Sanders.
It'll like stitch to him. No, it's definitely not Johnny Sanders. And it'll stitch to him, and he just goes, "Oh, what happened?" And that's kind of how I feel about Travis Hunter right now. I'm like, what are you gonna do, dude? It's pretty clear he doesn't want to commit, but Q rating is going to fall a little bit, man. That Q rating is going to fall if he doesn't make this commitment like he said he would. And boy, oh boy, do I wish we could gain 29,000 followers that quickly.
Yeah, I think like Wes said, or I think it was Wes that tweeted it out. We do anything once we hit 100,000. We'll announce anything you want.
Yeah, we will tell you whatever you want to hear.
Jake Rowe to Peru. I mean, it's happening.
If you've seen The Other Guys, if you've seen the movie The Other Guys, I will fire a weapon at my ceiling. I will do a desk pop on the podcast. I'll put a hole in my desk. I just bought this thing like 3 months ago. I will fire a round through that desk.
I'm going to tell you, folks, you want to see that. You want to see that. We need to get to 100,000 because you want to see Jake Rowe fire a live round.
I'm going to need to start a GoFundMe to buy me a gun, but if you're thinking about coming and robbing my house, I wouldn't do that. I do have a gun.
I think he'd do that for a lot less than 100,000 too.
Yeah, I mean, let's don't get into negotiations. 5,000, I might do it.
So here's what I'm going to do.
You might do it on this show.
I've got Travis Hunter's YouTube channel pulled up right here. It's just going to be floating, and we'll see if he uploads that video that tells us he's committed to Georgia or Colorado or LSU or wherever he's going. Let's talk about the Dogs today, though, guys. Since we met and since we spoke last, if you missed our live reactions today from about 10 a.m. to noon, that's when a lot of Georgia's official letters were coming in. It was a pretty bang period of the day for the Dogs as everything kind of became formal for a lot of these signees. Since then, like I mentioned, Damon Wilson and Kyron Jones make it official for the Dogs as well. And that was kind of the most intrigue for the class. They'll still have Jordan Hall's decision on Thursday. But 2 for 2 on the things that were toss-ups.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, you can't be much happier with how things turned out. It all went to plan. It was exactly what we expected, and it's exactly what we got. And I think that overall, you have to feel strong about that. Georgia closed on the guys they needed to close on. They closed on the guys they were expected to close on. And that's not always the case for everybody, right? I mean, we're over here talking about it on the board and talking about, like, it's kind of weird. The day came and went without much fanfare, without much drama. Things went as we expected they would and wrote that they would for several weeks, and then that was it. And I think Jake Rowe was maybe sweating that Damon Wilson in LI there maybe at the last minute. It seemed
Man,
like
I just knew, guys. I've done this long enough to know. I just knew that the questions were going to come, and they were going to come in force. One was it was going to be like a run on quarterbacks in the NFL draft or run on kickers or whatever. I just knew somebody was going to ask, and then 5 minutes later, somebody was going to ask, and somebody was going to ask, and I was like, all right, guys, let's see if we can find out what's going on here. That way we got answers when they start asking. We're able to kind of scrape some stuff together and head it off at the pass. But that was a huge addition, man. Just watching ESPN there and hearing them kind of talk about it and vocalize the outside linebacker thing in this class. I mean, with Sam Mpemba, with Gabe Harris. I mean, guys, I really like how they just kind of met needs in so many different ways there. They got a guy in Gabe Harris and a guy like Damon Wilson who have these high floors and may be able to come and help you right away, but also have good ceilings. And then Sam Mpemba, who may have a little further to go, but just freak athlete. And, I think that was probably part of it too, Wes, is I knew if Georgia didn't or Jake, if Georgia didn't get that letter of intent in, if something happened, that was going to really change how this day felt for Georgia.
Ooh, ain't no question about it, man. I mean, that would have shaken everything up clearly. And like you said, I was impressed that they did that as well. And I think that those guys are, ready to. I do think that those guys can help you early. I think that Damon Wilson and Gabe Harris are two guys that can get in the mix early on. And Pimba, a ceiling, sky high on that kid. But they did it in several ways. They did it in several areas, right? It seemed like they wanted to focus on defensive back. They were able to do that through this recruiting class. It seemed like they wanted to redo the pass catchers. Well, you get 2 tight ends and 4 wide receivers, right? I mean, it's the case for them where things look good, look as they should, and it's looking like Travis Hunter's follower count on YouTube. It's going up, man. I mean, it's all going up for Georgia, but there's still more on the vine, right? There's still more meat left. Jordan Hall tomorrow. You feel good about that one. How do they address the transfer portal? Ra Thomas, Dominic Lovett, Smoke Bowie. Do you see the increased focus for Deuce Robinson begin tomorrow? I would guess so. Yes. They're trying to focus on a couple of key areas, it seems, and they've done a great job, I think, addressing needs. I am curious, not to steal Wes's thunder as the host here, but I am curious, Roe and everybody, chime in, but we talk about addressing needs.
It's by committee, man. It's by committee.
It feels like they did cover a lot of ground. If you're looking around, is there one area that you think that they could have done more work in? Because I do have one in mind.
I have one. I'd say running back.
That was mine as well. Running back is also the area that I would say.
I've been big about the safety for a while, but
Palmer, I'm with you on that one, but then I also go to Kirby's comments about today where he talks about, I don't even know what a quarterback is anymore. These guys are defensive backs.
Don't y'all kind of feel like they just bring in DBs and put them where they need to go?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, though, they do. Palmer's right. They do play kind of what you have them listed at, but I think that's just Georgia hasn't, out of necessity, really, flipped a guy anywhere like that.
Right.
I mean, I do suspect, knowing what their numbers are at safety, that, I don't know. Did we get a definitive on Jones on what he's going to play? Is he going to be corner? Is he going to play safety? I think Justin Rhett is a guy that may get a look at safety or star. I think Daniel Harris is a guy who really fits at star.
Well, and to me, I feel like a lot of times you see these guys sign as a corner or safety, and they can play star as well. And I just, it's not terribly often that you see a guy that is a corner end up moving to safety. At least I feel like in my time, I haven't covered this as long as y'all have, but
Chris Smith.
Yes.
Chris
Smith
Smith
is a good example of that.
Chris Smith.
Yeah.
Probably the best one. Maybe the only one.
That I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, but it's kind of known that the skills are just kind of interchangeable there. That you'd rather have a cornerback playing safety than you would a safety playing corner.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so I think so if that's your logic, then you recruit heavy at corner, and maybe you're a little bit smaller at safety, other than the true safeties that you land.
I'll go off the reservation a little bit here. I'd say D-line. I'd say D-line. Two guys once you get Jordan Hall. If you get Jordan Hall, you're still up in the air on that one. We've seen some things get away from you at the last minute there with Sadir Mitchell.
Yeah,
obviously Georgia. You really hope that doesn't happen with Hall. But if Georgia, even when Georgia gets him, where's your 5 technique? Where's your other interior guy? I know they've had kind of some cycles here where they'll take 2 and then they'll take 4 and they'll take 3 and then they'll take 4. But I think defensive line is something that they could have probably addressed a little bit better.
But they're also not losing a ton on the defensive line. You lose Jalen Carter, which is
you could also lose Tramel Wildflower.
You could, and obviously you lose Bill Norton, but you may.
Old Cactus Bill.
There's a chance that Jalen and Bill are the only 2 that go. I wouldn't count on that. I would count on, probably 1, if not 2 more going. And then you're right, your defensive line depth is a little bit more of a concern. But you've also had some guys that haven't played that are capable of playing.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm mainly meaning that 5 technique position, because I do think that Wildflower is probably, having graduated, might be out the door, might try to move on, might try to stick around. I don't know. 6 years. It's a long time. It's been his first one at JUCO. So, but that's a position just kind of where, we're just, I don't know. It's one of those things where the portal really puts you in a bind because you can't over recruit every position. You can't be like, well, we got to make sure we got enough of these and enough. But by the time you've gotten to 3 or 4 different positions where you've maybe taken 1 or 2 above your number because you're worried about the portal, you're at 85. And then, then you're having to kind of rob Peter to pay Paul there. And that's just not something you want to do in recruiting. And I know Georgia's kind of gotten around that a little bit with the ability to bring some in-state guys in and, kind of walk them on for the first year, put them on scholarship the second year. They don't count as initial counters. I'm sure they've gotten some NIL help for some, preferred walk-ons to try and sure things up. But that's where the portal really gets you, is because you really need to be able to over-recruit a couple, 2 or 3 or 4 different positions, but you can't because then you run out of numbers.
The hell even is an initial counter even anymore.
Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The numbers are screwy, and they understand it in a way that quite frankly, I don't feel like I ever will. But Georgia's done a great job of balancing those things out.
Man, there's a science to that it almost doesn't feel like calculus. It feels more like magic. Like, I don't know how they fit it into the box.
It's a dance. Well, and then COVID didn't help at all either, because all these guys are getting an extra year of eligibility, and for a couple of years they weren't counting as scholarship guys against the 85. And
Kirby goes home
over here. The numbers are a dance, man.
Kirby goes home and puts on his Georgia onesie. It's big Georgia onesie. He just does the numbers dance, and it just all falls into place for him. It's pretty incredible. I've seen it. It's wonderful. People are saying.
People are talking about it. Well, how about quarterback, guys? I know that's something Kirby addressed today, and they feel good about that, and we've hashed that out ad nauseum.
We've got a story about that on our front page right now. Pulitzer. We're submitting that to the sports right and all the sports right.
Oh yeah, it's already in the inbox. It's already in their ballot.
I've heard some things about it. I've already gotten some feedback on it.
I printed it out, actually. I went up to the Kinko's and printed it out, and I stuffed it in the Pulitzer entry box over there at the Grady College School of Journalism.
It's over there in Beechwood next to the Fresh Market.
That just keeps going until you crack. He just kept adding on to that until I was like, all right, God dang it, you got me.
It's not easy to get the laugh out of Roe, But seriously, that's something that could be a conundrum. But I mean, what were you going to do?
No, I mean, quarterback is what it is, right? I mean, you got into the Arch Manning sweepstakes probably knowing what your situation was moving forward. You were okay with him and you were okay without him. And there's going to be quite frankly, there's going to be another round of portal guys. I mean, I've mentioned this on the show before. JT Daniels arrived in Athens in May, committed to Athens in May. I mean, these windows don't mean anything, right? I mean, when guys want to move, they move. And so if there's a guy out there that Georgia finds themselves in a bind, they've largely been able to go out and get them. They needed a defensive back. Darion Kendrick shows up at the door, right?
Well, both of those were pre-windows and
come on. Are we really but I guess how much stock are we really putting in? I mean, if a guy wants to get somewhere else, it feels like they've been able to find a way to get somewhere else.
Well, my question with it is
that's how I feel, Roos. I mean, snap your fingers.
With the windows, and y'all may have an answer to this. I may just not know the rules, and Jake Guru, transfer portal guru over here may. Are the windows just for entering the portal? Do you have to exit the portal in those windows? Can you exit the portal outside of those windows? I mean, the current window ends the January 18th or something like that. Does Georgia, if Georgia's going to land a wide receiver in this transfer portal window, does it have to be, if Georgia's going to land a transfer portal wide receiver before May, does it have to be before January 18th or whatever? Or could somebody decide in February or March, like what Tyke Smith did?
I think when that window closes, I'm pretty sure that member institutions are asked at that time to remove their players' names from the transfer portal. I'm pretty sure.
They just take them out
anymore. Yeah, I think so. Like that was the instruction before this past window, or before it closed this past time. I know that doesn't mean anything.
Realistically, they're going to say "Ask D's," man. I mean, that's what they're going to say. I mean, if they want to make it happen, it's and you know who D's is. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna make it happen. I feel confident in that.
They are, but this is the same as like saying no inducements, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's going to eliminate it, but it keeps us from having nuclear, submarines fight each other in 1 acre ponds. I mean, like
we're talking about people out here openly discussing. I mean, Pat Narduzzi talking openly about.
Pat Narduzzi's a wine sack.
But what I'm saying is
say names or quit whining.
I'm with you. But coaches are talking openly about the idea of tampering happening. And I think that until the NCAA steps in and does anything about any of this, it's just free for all, man. I mean, it really is.
The NCAA is not doing jack. I mean, they're not doing anything about that. They're not doing anything about NIL. It's all a farce. And you got a soapbox on Twitter to make yourself feel better about it if you're Pat Narduzzi.
When I used
nothing's
to
happening.
When I used to teach at Cedar Shoals High School, I worked with this dude, very small guy, probably 5'5", 130 pounds. These two kids got in a fight one day, and he did what the NCAA is doing right now. He's like, hey, somebody want to come break this up?
Hey.
Somebody want to deal with this right now? And, to be honest, I didn't want to go break it up either, but I didn't want to get, popped.
You wanted to watch. You sicko.
Yeah,
you wanted to watch him.
I kind of wanted to go like Joe Rogan and call it. Like, oh, God, rear naked choke. Jesus Christ, there he goes. I just kind of wanted to really get in there, but I think they would have really frowned upon that at the Clark County School District. I don't know. We had some rules over there. The 4Fs, man. Don't get the 4Fs, you don't get fired. And we won't talk about what those meant. But yeah, I mean, they're not doing anything. They're waiting on legislation to come bail them out. I get it. But I do think that the windows kind of provide at least some structure to it, to the point where you don't have a kid opting out before the 4th game of the year or before the 5th game of the year saying, I'm going into the transfer portal. And, next thing you know, he's trying to visit places, while he's on another school's campus.
That's the hard, fast limit, right? We haven't seen that. We haven't seen that tested. And I don't know that we will, because I feel like I feel like that would even scare off coaches, right? I feel like the idea of a kid doing it in the middle of the season, quitting on the team in the middle of the season, trying to go out, explore whatever, da 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 da.
You mean exactly like what Kelly Bryant did that year?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
When he shut it down after 4 games because it became clear.
Well, he not only did he shut it down after 4 games, Clemson did that for him. I mean, they went ahead and named Trevor Lawrence the starter so that he could get a year out of that.
Right.
God, he didn't do anything with it either.
No. Which, by the way, speaking of Clemson, did y'all see Dabo's comments today?
Yes. Yeah, probably shouldn't get too deep into them, but yeah.
Righteous
Dabo.
He's a quote machine, man.
Righteous gemstones of coaching.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I saw somebody put it on there and it goes, NIL. What about NAIL?
I saw that.
I was like, oh, God.
NAIL to the cross.
Oh, Lord.
Dabo.
Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, the only collective you'll ever need.
Oh, my
Dabo's
God.
712 NIL deal.
Wes, is that you? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Oh, God, it's so good.
And I mean that respectfully, man.
Collective.
I'm not trying to.
We need t-shirts.
I
would wear it.
No, I think it's all smart. I think it's we've gotten far off of the class, but ultimately we started talking about quarterback. And I think if Georgia feels it needs quarterback help ahead of next season, I think that they will be able to get it, or conceivably will be able to get it. I think that the opportunity will be out there. Somebody will be floating around post-spring practice who's going to explore the transfer portal again, or the opportunity to explore.
Yeah.
Well, somebody needs to tell Uncle Glenn Hartley that we don't know anything about a crystal ball. Okay.
Never heard of that.
RPM.
Crystal Ball, I've never heard of her. Is that Tony Ball's wife? I don't know.
Is that Monty Ball's mom?
Yeah. Monty Ball's mama. Let's see who that is.
But yeah, all in all, guys, number 2 is something I'm going to be chopping wood about for the Dogs. Number 2 in this signing day class. But yeah, a lot of coaches kind of going off today. I think this is a good opportunity just for a couple minutes before we chop some wood here. What is Matt Rule saying? He was tweeting about Oregon dropping the bag for players. I mean, this like era that we're in is kind of weird. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if it's because of Twitter or what, but guys are just going off and shooting from the hip. And
once again, though, who was out front of this whole thing? Who taught all of these coaches it was okay to bitch and moan about NIL?
Nick Saban.
Nick Saban told them, hey, guys, it's okay. It's okay. I'm going to do it, and you all can do it. And listen, I mean, I swear to God, I would on this show because I know he doesn't care and he's not going to see it. And he shut me down anyway, real rudely, Kirby. I would give it to him if it was him. But Kirby said today, he's like, listen, I stopped thinking about it and analyzing it. I just try to do the best I can with it.
Well, he was talking about the early signing period.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing.
But it's that approach.
It's the whole.
It's that approach.
Yeah, it's just the whole rigmarole to the whole thing. It's like, hey, stop analyzing it. Stop, trying to figure out why things are the way they are. Just deal with them.
Yes,
and that's the way. And everybody.
That's all you can do, really.
You're not going to fight this battle openly.
To me, that was the quote of the press conference because he said, hey, I tried to stop, figuring it out and just figure out how to be good at it.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Unless you're Nick Saban, you kind of have to operate with that mindset. Some Deuce Robinson talk, as you mentioned, with Uncle Glenn Hartley there. Is Deuce like the white whale, the great white buffalo of the February signing class, essentially, or any other names to look out for there?
Land mammals, sea mammals.
Yeah, he would have. I think Deuce Robinson could have been that for this portion of it. I mean, he's that talented of a player. Now, obviously, the need was clear with Damon Wilson. You don't have to have another tight end in this class, but a player of the caliber of Deuce Robinson has always got a welcome spot at any program he wants to play in the nation.
Not a team in the country that couldn't use that kid.
Tomorrow. Okay.
He is the Damon Wilson tight end equivalent.
He's one of those kids, and I don't think there's a ton of them like Leonard Fournette, coming out of high school. I mean, I'm having a hard time remembering some other guys that were like that.
Clowney.
He's Clowney. He's one of those kids that I honestly believe that if you told the 1990s Atlanta Falcons about it, they'd probably give him $40 million a year because they love drafting tight ends. But I mean, if you took a team like it wouldn't be the Patriots, but if you took a reasonable NFL franchise and you said, hey, you can get this kid right now coming out of high school, we're going to offer a one-time exception. You can give him $5 million a year for the next 8 years, and you can have him. And he's yours for the next 8 years, and that's all you've got to pay him. They'd take him in 100%. They'd take him in, they'd develop him, they'd work him in as an 18-year-old, and then by the time he's 21, they would hope that he was ready to, be a part of what they do and play it at a high level and do all that stuff because he's just that physically gifted. And he's a potential two-way guy.
And ultimately, I
don't think Travis Hunter's that caliber right now.
Two-sport guy, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, that's going to happen to some degree for Deuce Robinson. He's probably going to get $5 million a year for 3 years, and then he's going to go make a lot more than
that's an interesting point. That makes me wonder because, like,
he's not going to get $5 million a year from anybody.
Clowney was the guy coming out of high school that was ready to go, but, like, the professional career didn't necessarily not saying he wasn't a good pro, but
no, he's been a really good pro, but not up to that.
Right. Is there anyone that's like matched the hype from high school to college
LeBron
to the NFL? It's so hard.
LeBron James may be it. I mean, Robert Kimdichie didn't do it. Dylan Moses didn't do it.
No.
I think of guys like Ernie Sims way back in the day who went to Florida State. There was that kid that signed with Florida that time, the Powell kid that was number one. Byron Cowart, I remember, was supposed to be, just kind of otherworldly. Even if you want to roll back to a Trent Thompson had a little bit of a different scenario because his body just completely fell apart.
Yeah.
On him after basically ending his freshman season looking like he was going to win a couple of Outland trophies.
Good point.
Yeah. I don't remember much about him as a prospect.
No, sure.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. It is really kind of tough. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is trying to get there.
Calvin Johnson, that's a good call, Andy. Still,
yeah.
I still don't know that Calvin Johnson got the respect that he deserved as a recruit. I think we were still in a day and age there where we gave elite prospects their love, but we just didn't know quite how elite they were. Guys, you had to physically hold the dang thing to watch them on anything. Like you couldn't watch them. You couldn't watch them on the internets then when Calvin Johnson was around. You had to watch Countdown to Signing Day on on Wednesday nights during the fall. Watch Jamie Newberg.
Whoa, Andy Stowe taking shots at someone's mama in the comments here. Andy, come on, dude. It's the holiday season.
Do you remember the first highlights you watched on YouTube? Like I remember mine.
I do. I know who mine was.
I know mine for sure. It was
Noel Devine.
Noel Devine.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Noel Devine, dude. We were huddled around computers in the computer lab watching Noel Devine highlights.
Yeah, we used to do this. We did this. I did the same thing in college. I was in college. I'd be in the SLC with some buddies, and I'd be like, "Hey man, listen, I'm gonna come log into this computer in the SLC, and we're gonna look at Noel Devine highlights." So we did. It was amazing. Everything.
You guys have lost me.
Circle though. We're back on Dion.
You guys have lost me. Y'all are old.
Yeah. Oh, Palmer.
Go look up Noel Devine. It still holds
I've
up.
Never even heard of this kid.
What?
Highlights. Go look up
Noel
Devine.
I feel like you should leave your job at On 3.
Noel Devine is one of the reasons why this whole industry exists.
Yeah,
no question.
No doubt.
Bailey, I think him
call
and
obviously
we do this so badly, and it's all my fault, I know. But I think it was him, and I also think one of the forerunners was that 3 quarterback class: Stafford, Mustaine, Tim Tebow.
Oh boy, Mitch Mustaine.
There was something about Matt Stafford, Mitch Mustaine, and Tim Tebow in that class. There was something about that 3 amigos that just those guys were remarkable. There was a Texas kid, and there was the homeschooled, the one that Tebow and
He was on two-a-days.
This is the best one. He was ranked number 1 by some people. And then that just the way that thing worked out in those recruitment, how everybody followed those guys, I think was very big for the recruiting industry as well.
Last hypothetical on this topic, kind of a different question. There's no debate Brock Bowers would be a first rounder if he could go into the league.
Oh, 100%.
Right now. Do you think he'd be top 10, top 15, fall a little bit later? Because there's a lot of talent that you're, going up against hypothetically that's a little bit more developed.
I think it'd be a top 20 pick.
I'd say
Feels
top
right.
15.
Sure.
Well, you know what? Actually, I would change that because I think some people might be thinking, oh, man, you bring this 19-year-old into the league. No, Brock Bowers is closer to 21 than he is 19. He is an old sophomore.
Definitely held back.
Yeah, definitely, held back.
And that's why he's losing his hair. Just
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
Out here just catching.
Brock Bowers is going to kick Palmer's ass.
I will say, I see a lot of the comments that come in on like the YouTube shorts that I put up, and I put up a couple of Brock Bowers. The way the algorithm works, even though I put some of these up in September, they still get comments that kind of flutter in, and 90% of them are, why does this guy look like he's 40 years old? He's got, get this guy some Rogaine. Like, leave this dude alone. He's like the greatest player in college football.
He's
right
awesome.
now.
He's awesome. We talked to him today. I do enjoy talking to Brock.
Palmer trying to cover his bases now. Montavious Atkinson, still the oldest looking senior I've ever seen.
Montavious Atkinson at 18 years old looked like he had great grandkids.
He looked like he played in the league in like 1983.
He did.
He was something else.
Uncle Montavious, dude. Sweet guy, too. Very different, but very sweet kid.
Good kid. Good Langston team that was.
I think Georgia would have, I'm trying to think of guys because, obviously AD is a little bit older, too, because he had a year, even though apparently he can't go pro after this year. There was some digging done on that that I was talking to somebody up at UGA about yesterday or today. I'm trying to think of anybody else that Georgia would have that might be able to who could have maybe even have gone pro when they first got in. I don't know. Somebody might would have taken a shot at Ringo, just how big and and athletic he is. Pre-injury,
he would have probably tested well at a combine.
Yeah, right.
Don't be such a Ringo sexual, man.
Don't start, man. Don't start.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Maybe Amarius Mims. Maybe that's just the guy you look at and you're like, oh, I cannot turn this young man down. Yeah. Michael Williams.
Yes, that's a good one.
Malachi?
I like this. This has legs.
Malachi Starks. Yeah. Malachi Starks.
All right, we're gonna take a break from the live feed of Travis Hunter's YouTube channel to remind you.
Wes, he just went live.
Yeah, that's how it usually goes.
And then Wes turns off the StreamYard over here trying to switch it back, and then we're just all kind of caught in the ether.
You have no idea how perilously close the end broadcast button is to a lot of these things I switch back and forth between. Anyway, Breaking T, I don't know if they would make a signing day shirt. That'd be pretty cool. But they've got a lot of other shirts that are relevant to your fandom as a Georgia Bulldog. Obviously, it's a little too close to the holiday season now. You probably missed your shot if you haven't taken advantage yet. But we do have a link to Breaking T's amazing elite championship selection of apparel. They got coffee mugs and NIL tie-ins with Stetson Bennett, Brock Bowers, Christopher Smith, and Darnell Washington. Some really talented guys and some really talented T-shirt designers over at Breaking T.
We need to pitch that collective idea to them. I love it.
Is back on the topic of guys that you would take a shot at out of high school, Darnell Washington, would he be on that list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Offensive tackle in waiting.
Yeah.
Defensive end.
Yeah, probably. If you get to do whatever you want to with them.
Oh,
Brock
no.
Bowers would probably be an edge rusher.
I watched Darnell Washington play defensive end in high school, and it was absolutely abusive. It was ridiculous, man. He was just tossed.
How hot was it when you went out to Desert Pines that time?
God, it was so damn hot.
Oh,
It was so damn hot.
Nobody needs to ever tell me that it's a dry heat. I went out there when it was 110 degrees this year. I thought my face was going to melt off.
No,
it was hot. It's hot.
It was 100. It was 115 in the shade out there at Bishop Gorman that day, and I mean, I had this big weekend plan in Vegas. I was going to have this great time, and it zapped the energy out of me for literally 2 days straight. I just went in my room and closed the blinds and just slept for like 2 days.
Oh God!
Good use of my Amex points to get that room. No, I think though that it's. I think that talking about the rest of this class and looking ahead. Yeah, Georgia's in a good spot, right? I mean, it feels.
Robert Tony Wilson is letting us
RT
know.
Dub over here.
I was waiting for
Our
him
new
to.
topic.
I was waiting for him to suggest a new topic. I thought it was going to be new topic and then a suggestion. No, just new topic, guys.
No,
Keep it moving.
I guess no. Looking around this class. I mean, let's talk about this because I think this is important. The guy that you're high on that maybe is not top of the list, right? I mean, AJ Harris is up there. Raylan Wilson's up there. You talk about, I don't know, but I mean, it's a guy maybe that's kind of somewhere down on this list or further down, I guess, than those top guys that you feel good about.
Josh Williams.
Tyler Williams.
Josh Williams.
Sorry.
Nice.
Josh Miller.
I didn't see
Tyler
him.
Williams. Is that
Make
who you're
your
going
guys
with?
up. Josh Miller for me.
Josh Miller.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I thought you were going to say Tyler Williams.
No, man. I watched that film of him moving the other day, and I'm like, man, this cat right here is light on his feet. He's a good-looking player. I don't know. He's one of those guys that's not going to surprise me if he's built different, but if he kind of takes the Jamari Sawyer, Isaiah Wynn route, and you're like, oh man, we brought this guy in as a guard. We think he can play tackle because I'm saying you don't find 300-pounders that move out in space like he did. And there was a comfort level with space. Another thing, all you folks out there, I had a coach tell me this one time, and I've abided by it since, and I think it's the smartest thing anybody's ever told me about evaluating offensive linemen. Is that if you're watching offensive linemen, keep your eye on how much time they spend on the ground. And I'm not talking about like how much time they spend on the ground, like, cut blocking. I'm talking about cut blocking. I'm talking about everything. Like I'm not talking about, just when they trip and fall, but how often do they feel the need to be on the ground and how often do they incidentally end up on the ground? And then also watch them get up. And, if they're over there wallowing on the ground trying to get up, they're probably stiff as a wedding dress. Okay. That's probably just how it is. So, you watch them. Do they spend any time on the ground? And if they do spend time on the ground, how quickly do they get up? Josh Miller has both of those things. He's really athletic. I love him. I think he's a really good player. And you said Penn State felt like he was a Sunday player, right?
I did, yes. When he flipped over, I had some communication with some guys over there, and the feeling was that Penn State really had just kind of hoped to sneak him in under the radar. They were hoping that nobody else would kind of notice him, pick him up, right? They thought that he was a Sunday guy, and I think that's a great pick. I think Josh Miller is a really good prospect. I agree with you, Rhett Womack. I think that Monroe Freeling's awesome. Outstanding film on him. Flexibility off the charts. I'm going to go with, it's tough on this list because a lot of these guys are highly ranked. But I'm going to go with the lowest ranked of the
Peyton Woodring. I knew it.
Yeah, yes. Hey, listen, 60-yard boot to set the state record's nothing to shy away from, man. I mean, if you can get it done, if you can kick in high school, you can kick, right?
He was Louisiana Specialist of the Year.
I'm going to go though with I think CJ Allen's going to surprise a lot of people. He's got really nice film. I like him. He's a little bit lower on the consensus than both Raylan Wilson and Troy Bowles, but I think that there's a role for CJ Allen on this team. I think that he's going to end up being a really good player. And my other one's probably Anthony Evans. I think that you just can't teach the speed that kid has. I mentioned on the earlier stream that he had a faster 100-meter time per mile split.
Kid his high school mascot is the Rocket.
Yeah,
Rockets. Our buddy Dan Matthews commented on that today. I guess he's from that neck of the woods. I know he's from that neck of the woods. And
Proud Texan.
Yeah, I'm surprised that guy doesn't wear a cowboy hat everywhere like Champ Kind, man. He needs to have a cowboy hat on at all times. But he commented, good to see whatever his high school name is. Good to see a Rocket playing in Athens. And I was like, that guy's a literal rocket. He is dangerous and very fast.
Yeah, I think that the upside's huge for him. Now he's a little slight. You mentioned the word earlier today, Wes, and it's kind of stuck with me all day. Sprightly.
Yeah.
So he's, that's always a concern.
Diminutive.
Diminutive.
But I think that he's a good player. And Malik Savage with a good one there. Yazid Haynes, huge senior season. I think Yazid Haynes playing his best football right now. It seems.
And the thing about Anthony Evans is we're talking about how some guys look old. Anthony Evans looks like he's 14.
Yeah, he does.
He looks like he is. He looks like he is.
I'm concerned for him.
Witches of Waverly Place on Disney.
Like
Peyton Woodring.
He's on the Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Peyton Woodring looks young as well.
You can look young as a kicker.
All right. So how far down do they have to be?
Sorry, Palmer. Let me get.
Okay, let's just say you can't pick out of the top 5. Well,
I know how far you've got to be on this screen. Where I can't see
everyone we've said is a 4-star. And we had a comment the other day. Like
I did not. I said a 3-star.
Oh, okay, all right. One of the comments.
So does Roderick Robinson count?
Sure.
Okay. Well,
I think the top 100 player.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you picked the number 99 player in the country.
Yeah. I mean, what do you want?
There's not a lot to choose from, guys. We got a very small pool if you want to try to dip outside of the top.
I got a good one. I can't wait to share mine.
I'll take Roderick Robinson then. I mean, I'll go. I mean, I know we're not doing dog stocks, but I would go stock up on him. I mean,
it's okay.
Just look at the way
he
finished his senior season. 4 touchdowns in a state championship game.
8 touchdowns in his last 2 playoff games.
Yeah. So I mean that kid. Georgia got a really good one with him. Kirby said it today. He said, he runs like an SEC back. Now you don't. Now you don't because you covered me up.
Great screen name, by the
way. He runs with the physicality that you need to pick up tough yards, but he's got the speed that you need as well.
You can't.
If you're listening to this on podcast, Palmer's face is at the very bottom of the screen. So anytime I put up a comment,
typically gets this treatment.
Yeah.
Anytime I put up a comment, his face gets covered up. And there's a user named Jehovah's Thickness that came on and said, "Hey, we see Palmer again." So I show his comment, and it immediately hides Palmer right away.
Not only that, it puts Jehovah's Thickness's face right where Palmer's would be. Yeah. So,
no.
All right. My guy is Gabe Harris, and again, he's a really talented dude. But
I got a feeling you're going to be talking about him as a very highly rated cat by the time that these rankings are final.
Nobody's talking about him, and just the fact that he plays down at Valdosta. He's one of these, freak D lineman guys that Georgia just kind of stacks up, and they're not, if you watch them on film, if you don't know what you're watching, if you don't know what to look out for, they just look like a pretty good football player, but they end up impacting a lot of things the way that Kirby Smart and Trey Scott want their D linemen to impact the game. So my underrated, I guess, under the radar guy is Gabe Harris.
I like him a lot, man. And he outsnapped Samuel Mpemba at IMG this year. And I think when you look at the consensus, which if you don't already know what our consensus is very similar to the composite that Shannon Terry put together at 24/7, but it's different in that it's equally weighted across all 4 platforms. Rivals, 24/7, ESPN, and of course On 3, equally rated amongst those. But when you looked at the composite at 24/7, 24/7 was heavier weighted than the other ones were. This one's equally weighted. And so I think when you look at that in the end and you look at where all these recruiting services come together on Gabe Harris, I think there's a good chance he's going to be either right there with or maybe slightly ahead of Samuel Mbemba.
I want to get to this one question and then chop some wood and then wrap this thing up. Robert Tony Wilson, who encouraged us to keep the show moving along. Appreciate that. I think this is a fair question, though. What does this 2023 linebacker class mean for the guys that Georgia brought in earlier, like E.J. Lightsey, Jalen Walker, C.J. Washington, and Travian Sorey?
It means nothing for Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker is a stud in playing as a freshman.
E.J. Lightsey will have a leg up as far as learning what to do. It does take a lot, learning, that position. I could see Xavier Sorey transferring. I'm not saying he will. He's a specialist right now. He's a third down guy. Jalen Walker kind of took that job away from him during the season. And then C.J. Washington, I think there's probably a better than 75% chance his career is over based on what I've heard there. So C.J. Washington is probably going to be done. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but he's probably going to be done. But I mean, I think Georgia's just going to keep stockpiling guys there. I mean, Jamon Dumas-Johnson and Smile Munden are guys that you could definitely see moving on early. Then you've seen
you're going to lose Tresman and Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I think those guys. Those guys are in a really interesting situation because they can transfer now. They could transfer like when the season's over with, and they would have essentially they're close enough to graduation. They'd probably be able to graduate from a new school in a year and then have another transfer if they needed it, or they can wait and get their degree from Georgia at the end of spring, transfer as experienced guys, be able to lock in somewhere and have 2 years to play. I do know that both of those guys do want to play. So, that's something to keep an eye on there as well. But Georgia's got a lot of and it's not just – guys, this is the best linebacker class I've ever seen. Like if you want to put outside linebacker edge on the list, I mean, you look at those 3 inside guys and you look at those 3 outside guys, I've never seen a better collection of talent in a class. I mean, you maybe could have said like 3 linebackers, all of them were 5-stars or something, but not 6 guys all, inside the top 100 like this. It's a complete freak show. And like I said earlier, Wes, I think we talked about it when I said that there was already a little bit of buzz trickling out about Raylan Wilson and C.J. Allen.
Yeah, definitely go back and check out some of our live reactions to some of these guys coming in earlier today. We got a lot deeper on a lot of these position groups, and we did talk about the early bowl practices and how guys can start to get a leg up on some of their position group battles. Let's chop some wood and wrap this thing up. I want to chop some wood about Alabama's #1 class and Georgia being #2. And I think what we've seen from Kirby Smart and from Nick Saban's programs thus far in this NIL transfer portal era is that, maybe Kirby Smart's class isn't the best. Maybe it doesn't have the most 5-stars stacked up or piled up. But I think what we've learned is that Georgia evaluates talent a little bit differently than some of our talent evaluators do at On 3. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying maybe Georgia and its staff, it's huge. They find guys that are flying under the radar. Look at Ladd McConkey, look at Jordan Davis, so on and so forth. But then on the flip side of that, I can't help but wonder how many of these talented guys in Alabama's #1 class will still be there. And I'm not saying that Georgia won't lose guys to the transfer portal themselves, but it does seem like, I keep using this word when we talk about these 2 programs, there's glue. There's glue at Georgia that there doesn't seem to be at Alabama, at least this season. And that's kind of surprising to me because that's usually the thing that the Tide has. And right now, I think Kirby's found a way to have a little bit better glue. So I am chopping wood about that, about talent for Georgia sticking around, talent at Bama. If the trend continues as it did this year, maybe that talent is going elsewhere after a year or two.
I'm going to chop wood on something I struggle with: brevity. Okay, brevity. Damon Wilson, very brief today. Very impressive interview. Super quick. I mean, they panned to him on ESPN. If you didn't see it, go look it up. He committed to Georgia in literally 5 seconds. They asked him why all those people were in the frame. He said, family and friends are the most important thing to me. Really impressive kid. And I think Georgia got a good one, brevity. And I'll leave it at that.
Paul?
Bruce, you got it.
All right. I'm going to chop wood on familiar faces getting it done, and that's Stacy Searles and Brian McClendon, man. A couple nice classes for those guys. I think both of them come back to Athens. You heard some retread stuff, not so much about BMAC, but about Searles. And all Searles does is go out, get Monroe Freeling under his tenure, keep Bo Hewley in the fold, go out and find a guy like Josh Miller. Kelton Smith, I think, a hell of a player. Looks like a 5-position guy to me. Jamal Merriweather could have gone to UCF. He chooses the Dogs instead. He's a big body out there. And then Brian McClendon really helping reshape that wide receiver room through this class. Good to see those guys back in the fold and doing some nice work for the Bulldogs for sure.
I got 2 things I'm chopping wood about. First, along those same lines, Chidera Uzodiribe, Jake's sworn enemy over here. Can see
water under the bridge.
Can see the anger in Rose's face there, but he came out swinging this year, swinging his axe, chopping wood with this recruiting class. They had a huge need there. I mean, you look at that room and you've got probably 2 guys leaving. MJ Sherman hasn't panned out like folks would have hoped that he would. A young group there. But you come in and you fill that need with Damon Wilson, Sam Mpemba, Gabe Harris, 3 top 10 guys at the edge position. So chopping wood about him and chopping wood about you guys. Signing day in the books. I remember this time last year, it was Roos and I, and first full signing day. Obviously, Wes was on with us for February, and the fun that was Andrew Paul and Dylan Bell signing and all that. But, certainly today's signing day, December signing day, early signing day, a little bit more hectic and all hands on deck. So kudos to the whole crew.
Amen. Yep, it was fun, man. It was a good time. And we'll see what happens with Jordan Hall. We'll see what happens in February this time around. And until then, I hope y'all have a wonderful holiday. Next time we come back, we will actually talk about Georgia taking on Ohio State in the college football playoff. I promise we'll get to that. But this signing class is worth every minute, I think, because I think there are some future champions in this class as well.
Wes, programming note, I don't assume we'll go on Christmas Day, will we?
No,
definitely.
Yeah, we probably won't do that. Probably be back early in the week for lead up to the bowl game. Yeah,
yeah, it's probably. I would say right now we'll try to get the word out. I would say probably our first day is going to be our first day back is going to be the 27th, which would be Palmer. Who do we get at the Peach Bowl that day? Is that OC or in offensive players or defensive coordinator, defensive players?
I think that's defense. Schedule for the week is, our team arrives on Monday. We'll have Kirby 26th on Zoom. 27th, I think we've got defensive players and defensive coordinator. 28th, offensive players, offensive coordinator, and practice viewing. 15 minutes of that. 29th, full media day. More practice viewing. 30th, Kirby. 31st, game.
Man, it's actually happening. It's actually going to happen. Until then, I appreciate each and every one of you that make doing this show so fun. Y'all crack me up in the comments. Y'all deserve a great holiday too. Keep it locked into DawgsHQ.com, the premium membership, as you see scrolling at the bottom, $10 right now until September. I know many of you have already hopped onto that because there's a lot of crossover onto our message board. But if you want to check it out, it's there for you if you haven't done so already. Until next time, we will keep you posted over there. Peace.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.